Congressman Pat Fallon and Mast Transportation Brian Mast. Gentlemen, we're so grateful both of you are on. This is a really dicey action in the stock market. Wall Street is responding. Congressman Fallon, your reaction to President Biden in Poland today, vowing as long as it takes in Ukraine. Check the Associated Press North poll. Americans don't want a broader war. Less than half support it. It's down from 60% in May. What's your response?
Well, Liz, it's clear that Joe Biden is putting America last. I mean, he's taken one more substantive trip to Ukraine than he has our own southern border, because the trip he did finally take to the border was sanitized, and he didn't get to see the realities of the disaster and the catastrophe that his policies have created on the ground. So I echo the American people's residents to get deeper involved in Ukraine when we have to take care of things here at home, particularly East Palestine as well.
Yes, so what Congressman Fallon is saying, Congressman Mast, by the way, Trump says he would have negotiated a peace deal by now. Congressman Mast, NATO Chief Stoltenberg says NATO increasingly concerned China will send lethal weapons to Russia. China's Xi Jinping is reportedly going to visit Putin in Moscow. Where do you come down on this? Because we've got Secretary of State Blinken merely lecturing China about spy balloons. Trump says he would have slapped tariffs on China.
We know that China and Russia still have deals going on. United States of America under Biden, he's saying no more oil and gas deals in America. China and Gazprom, they're still making 30-year contracts. They're still moving energy from Russia to China. And in the midst of all this, you saw what happened today, which was Russia saying when they're going to pull out of New START, they're no longer interested in deterrence. They're not interested in America or anybody else knowing how many nukes they're having in the field, if they develop any new ones, what their capabilities are, or maybe even where they're proliferating those to. And those should all be major concerns to anybody around the globe.
So to what Congressman Mast just said, Congressman Fallon, we are not strong under Biden. The U.S. economy is running at half its growth rate. It's only at 1% to 2% growth with 6% inflation. Russia and China are both in it for the long term. The U.S. is in 2-year cycles with midterms. I mean, when you see what's happening, Congressman Fallon, where's the peace through strength position that the U.S. used to have under Reagan?
Well, what we've seen throughout history, Liz, is authoritarian regimes respond to strength, and they also respond to weakness. They get very aggressive. I think it's interesting to know that in 2008, Russia stole 2 provinces from Georgia. In 2000, that was under W. Bush. Under Obama, in 2014, they seized Crimea, and then a full-scale invasion under Biden. They did nothing for the 4 years that President Trump was in office, because I really believe that they were hesitant because they feared him and they weren't sure how he would react. And they figured that he'd react with strength. And you see the result when we have a disastrous pullout in Afghanistan. China was watching, and they're also watching what's happening in the Ukraine as well, Liz.
Yeah, so Congressman Mast, do you want to comment on that? Because, again, China and Russia are in it for the long term. Your response to what Congressman Fallon just said?
Yeah, I would sum up what my friend just said in this way. Nobody in an intelligence agency around the globe looks at Joe Biden and says that is a credible threat. That's somebody that we should be taking seriously. It's just not what's playing out after what happened in Afghanistan and so many other dominoes that he has knocked down to make them feel that way. They felt that way under President Trump. President Trump was a credible threat, i.e., Putin will not go into Russia or will not go into Ukraine, i.e. China will take very seriously what Trump is doing with tariffs, and the list goes on and on. That's the biggest national security threat we have, is that he's not taken as a credible threat.
Okay, let's move on to East Palestine, Ohio. Let's go through this. So FEMA still will not give East Palestine money to help clean up that chemical disaster zone in Ohio after the government blew up rail cars with toxic chemicals. Now we've got Transportation Secretary Buttigieg now says, quote, I could have spoken out sooner. He also said he's planning to go. But he didn't say when, Congressman Fallon. This is 17 days after the crash.
Liz, this is not leadership, and as so many people have pointed out, I think very fairly, it didn't fit into their paradigm. I think Pete Buttigieg would have bent over backwards if the pigmentation of the folks that lived in East Palestine was different. And it's horrible to say that, but it's true. Every American should be treated equally. But this administration is not doing that. This was a disaster. This is something that FEMA money should be used for. Well, I don't know, 115,000 gallons of vinyl chloride is spilled off 20 rail cars, yeah, I think it's time for the federal government to step up, and Buttigieg should have shown far more leadership than he did.
You know, to what Congressman Mast just said, Congressman Fallon just said, Congressman Mast, we've got both Ohio senators saying the EPA is not testing for dioxins. That's cancerous. I mean, Buttigieg sent a strongly worded letter to Norfolk Southern. He's saying he'll urge Congress to enact rail reforms. You guys going to listen to Buttigieg?
No, he's not been a good voice for transportation across the whole of America since his time in office. But you look at this, and it's really par for the course for the Biden administration, where they say, believe what we tell you, don't believe what you see with your own eyes. Don't believe the gas prices you see, or don't believe the grocery prices you see. Certainly don't believe the real chemical hazards that you see there, because Pete Buttigieg and his agency said everything is fine there. That is par for their course.
Let's watch the mayor of East Palestine. He's upset the president went to Ukraine. Ukraine has gotten about $113 billion in aid. Again, no money, no FEMA aid for East Palestine. Watch this.
You saw President Joe Biden over in Ukraine. Did that make you feel slighted in any way?
Absolutely. That was the biggest slap in the face. That tells you right now he doesn't care about us. So
agreed.
He can send every agency he wants to, but I found that out this morning in one of the briefings that he was in the Ukraine giving millions of dollars away to people over there, not to us, and I'm furious.
Your response, Congressman Fallon?
I echo the mayor's comments. I mean, it's really heartbreaking. We should be, look, we have an interest in Ukraine. There's no doubt about that. It's an extreme position to do nothing, but it's also an extreme position to give them a blank check, which this administration has done. But Joe Biden, you have 340 million Americans that you're supposed to secure and keep safe, because if we're not safe, then we're not free. You've ignored the southern border for 2 years, and then you have a disaster in East Palestine, and you ignore it. And so does your transportation secretary, which is his job description. So I'm disgusted, Liz.
So residents are reporting rashes, nausea, trouble breathing, headaches. Congressman Mast, to what Congressman Fallon is saying, chemicals rain down on the area. Are House Republicans, you guys going to look into this? You're going to hold hearings on this?
Transportation and Infrastructure, Rail Subcommittee, others, they will be looking at this. The jurisdiction in the House of Representatives on this issue, given that it's more drinking water related in most of the cases that it's being looked at, is being looked at by the Energy and Commerce Committee. But again, you look at this and it takes a level of common sense to say, yeah, we would expect that that's what's happening to people. They should be warned that that's going to happen. Transportation should take this seriously, because if a chemical says if you drink it, you're going to die, if you're going to handle it, wear rubber gloves or an apron. If it gets in your eyes, you could go blind. If you ingest even a small amount of it, your kidneys could fail, your liver could fail. If those are the warnings for what is in the tune of rail car loads of it, and you're burning it off or seeing it spilt into the ground or water, then the government should be saying, yeah, we need to look out for that, because that's what could happen.
The EPA chief, EPA is ordering Norfolk Southern to take charge of this. It reports that Norfolk Southern has given over $3.4 million in compensation, that they're in it for the long haul. The EPA chief, you're going to see on camera right there, the Ohio governor, they're drinking tap water near the train derailment site after heavy criticism. So you're seeing that on camera right there. So they're trying to basically put out the message the water is safe, but the drinking wells are not safe. So people are really nervous that the EPA, they don't believe the EPA. Even Rosie O'Donnell is weighing in, saying she doesn't trust anything that's going on. Watch this.
The EPA comes out with a very non-alarmist, everything's okay, don't worry about a thing statement. And it's infuriating. I don't trust the EPA. I don't trust them. After 9/11, I don't know how anyone could. There was no cleanup. There was dust everywhere, toxic, horrible, cancer-causing. And they lied to the American people. I don't believe the EPA.
Congressman Fallon, your final word.
Liz, when I woke up this morning, I didn't think I'd say the following words. I agree with Rosie O'Donnell.
Brian Mast, Congressman Mast, your final word.
Joe Biden, don't just show up where the press shows up. Show up where America needs you.
Gotcha. Congressman, gentlemen, thanks for joining us tonight. It's good to see you both.
Thanks, Liz.